Hello and welcome. This is Rufamager. My friends, we're talking about Street Fighter 6 yet again on the channel. We've been talking about Street Fighter 6 a lot, I guess, but, well, there's a lot to talk about. And, well, today's video, we're keeping along those lines, as we've gone over quite a few things in the last week or so about Street Fighter 6. We've had a bunch of character-specific talk, sure, and obviously a bunch of news. The beta is upcoming. We have a new playable build. And we saw Dalsum, Honda, Ken, and Blanka. That's all great. But let's go into some of the really smaller things that have become apparent over the last few days. We know the big details, like the drive system and how revolutionary it is, especially Drive Rush specifically. Seems like an absolutely insane mechanic. But now, let's look at some things that may be just as important as the big flashy stuff, but it is not as immediately apparent. So the first of those will be throw techs. I know that doesn't seem that crazy, but trust me, in this game it seems like a fairly big deal. So as usual in Street Fighter, you throw tech, well, you kind of bounce off each other, right? You go for the throw, it's defeated, you're separated just a little bit. The thing that's different in Street Fighter 6 specifically is the distance. So you're about to see a throw tech happen here, and look how far apart the two juries are separated from each other. It's a very large distance, to be sure. In fact, here I'll give you some comparison notes with Street Fighter 4 and Street Fighter 5. So now you're viewing Street Fighter 4, and this will be Street Fighter 5. So tech throws, you might notice Street Fighter 5 a little bit less than Street Fighter 4. And now if we compare it directly to Street Fighter 6, you can clearly see the distance between the two characters in Street Fighter 6 after the tech is wildly the most between the three games. Street Fighter 5 has the shortest distance, Street Fighter 6 has the longest distance. In fact, the distance between the two characters in Street Fighter 6 is like double that or more of Street Fighter 5. So what does this mean exactly? Well, it means that Street Fighter 6, when you tech the throw, it's a bit more of a clean break, if you will. If you're getting thrown at all, that means you're probably being pressured, and if you tech the throw, that's great, fantastic. But say the distances of the throw tech in Street Fighter 5, the enemy's like kind of still on top of you. You do not have room to breathe, basically. You will still be pressured. Here, with the vast distance between the two characters created after the throw tech, you can kind of slow your roll just a little bit. It's absolutely to the benefit of the defender to be able to just mentally recuperate just a little bit. Okay, now there's some actual space between us. We've effectively reset the neutral considering the distance, right? So now we can just kind of go at a regular pace again. For very pressure-heavy characters, I don't think this is a very good thing, as they do not want the distance to be reset in any way. But for basically everyone else, I say it's a net benefit. At the very least, it'll give people time to think. Me, personally, I like this change quite a bit. Taking a throw is usually a step towards, much worse things, as you're going to get pressured and beat up and run over. So if you correctly tech the throw, we reset the neutral, and then we go from there. So that's one thing. And once again, so this is not a very obvious thing. I didn't notice it myself at first either, right? So not a very obvious thing, but yet these are the kind of things that can really inform the gameplay and how match flow works in Street Fighter 6. So this is one very important detail that's not immediately apparent. So now let's go to another one. So now to speak on the drive system, and we've talked a lot about it, sure, but there's some extra little details on how you can interact with it. Obviously, you can spend meter to do stuff like the Drive Rush, do your EX moves. Like, it's the lifeblood of how you play in a lot of ways, to be sure. It does regenerate over time a little bit, and you can build it up by hitting the enemy, and you can lose it by getting hit. However, there's ways to drain it beyond the usual. So obviously, if you run out of meter, you go into the burnout state, and well, that's basically where bad things happen, as that's where you can get dizzied. You lose basically almost all of your options besides just your base move set. It's something you don't want to do. But the thing is, the enemy can force you into burnout with the level 3 supers. So take a look here at Juri doing the level 3 and keep in mind the enemy's drive gauge. So obviously the enemy's getting beat up, and here on the final hit, look at the massive drain of the drive gauge. They lose a fair bit. So again in slow-mo here, pay careful attention to the bar. So she loses basically almost 2 full bars, and that can force you into burnout against your will. In fact, next up, let me show you exactly that. In this clip here, we have Ken throwing Kimberly into the corner, and then we have a drive impact. And you don't want to get drive impacted in the corner, because if you block, even if you correctly block the move, it still bounces you against the wall and we can get some hits. So Ken goes into his level 3 super, and as you can see, the final hit just completely drains the rest of Kimberly's drive gauge. So she's now empty, she's in burnout state. And well, burnout state in the corner seems to be a recipe for disaster in this game, because now, if you get hit by the drive impact and you bounce off the wall, you're in the dizzy state, so the opponent can get any combo they want on you. So basically, this is a big added value to a level 3 super. Not only is it big and flashy and does a fair bit of damage, it also severely depletes the enemy's drive gauge. So this is a level 1 super, and as you can see, it does a little bit of drive gauge damage, sure, but not anywhere near the amount of nearly 2 bars that a level 3 does. So basically, it factors into your gameplay. Okay, so not only is it the big hit, but it can potentially be an extra big game-winning move if I can actually force the opponent into burnout state mid-combo. So do you want to save your meter for the big home run swing and deprive enemy of the resources, or do you want to do a bunch of little smaller combos ending in level 1s? I guess that's for us to figure out. That's be the meta over time, but still, it's a very interesting property of the move. Our next thing to talk about here is a very major change, although it's a very subtle one, and that is changes to what we call proximity block. Basically, it's whenever you're holding a back direction, to block, it's how soon you start blocking, and it's changed in Street Fighter 6. Let me give you a very small and subtle example, but it kind of proves the point here. So Ken, he's going to go for crouch jab, and Guile, well, he just walks away while he's doing it, right? That doesn't really seem like anything, but if we go to Street Fighter 5, Guile's further away than he is in the example in Street Fighter 6, and every time you see Ken throws a jab, he's trying to block a little bit, right? Because the proximity block is being engaged. So when you're trying to walk away, it stops you from walking away and forces you to guard. Like, it's a great thing if you actually block the move, but otherwise it just hampers your movement and holds you in place against your will, right? Street Fighter 5 especially, certain moves literally like hold you hostage while you're trying to walk backwards if they're held for a long time, right? And that can actually screw you over. So the fact, going by the footage here, you're not held hostage to that same degree. The proximity block still engages, which is good. Like, you need it to engage when you actually want to block. But if the move were to whiff, it won't engage until you're much closer. You have more freedom to walk backwards safely without being forced into the block animation. And what does this mean? Well, basically it means you can play neutral better. Your movement will not be handicapped while moving backwards, while you're trying to do the back and forth and say whiff punch to other people's moves. You'll actually walk out of the move that you're trying to whiff punish instead of being forced to block in place. So it's not like cool and sexy, I know. This is not like flashy stuff, but it is important stuff. Fighting games are full of so much just fantastic elements, right? But it's a lot of the little things that make fighting games what they are. And in this video, I hope you appreciate that some of the little things in Street Fighter 6, they're definitely taking note and they're applying it to make the game even better yet. Not everything has to be big and in your face. It's the little subtle things that really make the game. So that all said, let me know what you think about these small little details, because small details build big games. And otherwise, well, we're at the end of the video. So thank you very much for watching. Hope this video has found you well, and go out and play some Street Fighter.